Well, earlier this month, Eric Beech's media group, which runs the online news service Crikey, launched a political publication, The Power Index. The first instalment looked at power brokers in politics.
Today sees the release of the second instalment of the Power Index. It's compiled by journalist Paul Barry, who joins us from Sydney to look at who's who in the media. Paul, good morning. This index is called the Megaphone Index. Who or what makes up a megaphone?
Well, the megaphones are the people in the media with loud voices. Essentially, you could call them tub thumpers or shit stirrers or people who stand on soapboxes, but they're given a platform in the media to prosecute a point of view, and they do that often relentlessly and very loudly.
How do they go about prosecuting that point of view?
Well, I think whatever subject they're on, they have a very, very strong opinion, and they present it as loudly and as often as they can. Now, sometimes they may just be reflecting the prejudices of their audience, but they also help to fan those prejudices and to riff on their anxiety and to whip up a frenzy about, be it the carbon tax or asylum seekers or the amount of debt in this country. But they do not look at stuff objectively and say, well, what do I think about this? They go, hey, I know what I think about this. Now, where can I find the evidence to support it? And how angry can I get about it?
OK, and who is top of the pops in this new chart?
Well, top of the pops, I mean, you'd obviously have to look at people like Alan Jones, who has his morning radio show, Ray Hadley. In Melbourne, you've got Neil Mitchell, who's nothing like as angry or as rabid as those guys. We've also looked at columnists like Randa Devine and Piers Ackerman, and we believe, and are told by most of the people we talk to, that Andrew Bolt is the most powerful. He has an amazing reach. About 11 million Australians buy a paper with one of his columns in it, and the research suggests that 4 million Australians read a column of his every week. So that is an absolutely phenomenal reach that he has. That's actually just the start of it.
Which goes to one of the issues you raised as part of this index, the tub thumpers, the megaphones, either in radio and or print. Which medium offers the greatest power to either change or reflect opinion?
Well, look, I think we tend to get more worked up about the shock jocks and think that people like Alan Jones have the power. They're certainly very good at promoting themselves. You see them, on the news, for example. You hear about them constantly. When he hoes into Gillard, that becomes a news story. When he calls her Jew liar and he berates her for being late. So he is very visible. But the politicians, I think, believe that people like Andrew Bolt are more important in setting the agenda. Someone says that what happens is the newspapers set the agenda and then the shock jocks amplify it. But Bolt in particular, he has such a huge reach. He's also got the Bolt Report on television. He's on the 7 p.m. project on Channel 10 constantly, and he has a blog that has 2.5 million hits per month. So he just has multimedia platforms, and if you can do that, then you have even more influence.
Speaking of Alan Jones, we all saw the radio host try to change or at least reflect opinion at that Canberra rally last week. Let's take a listen.
Passions were running high, and a lot of the anger suddenly turned on the media as well.
I haven't spoken. I have spoken to this man here. I've spoken to him.
You're all what was that about?
Well, Alan wasn't happy at my quote of ACT police saying that these people, they told me it's nonsense, it's not happening.
So you reported that?
And he, sort of said, are you accusing me of lying? I said, I'm just reporting on what...
The journalist from Sky Channel, David, where is he? Well, come on over here and explain yourself. Come on over and explain yourself. Come on. You told your people you told the people there was no blockade. All right. Don't you go away, because there's a chap up there who hasn't been reporting the truth. God knows what he's saying.
Alan Jones there. Paul Barry, watching that, what are the thoughts that come to your mind?
I think, like many of them, he's a bully, essentially. I think that one of the things that I feel is that these people, they set the tone of political debate. They say it's OK to abuse our political leaders, to show no respect, to call them liars, stupid, dopes, morons, idiots or whatever. And they do it constantly. And I personally, as a journalist who's worked many years in the business and has always been taught that, well, firstly, you should be objective, and secondly, you should show respect. I find it actually really quite disturbing what they do to the political debate in this country. You know, if you look at the disillusion with politics in Australia, I think the shock jocks share some blame in that, frankly.
And just finally, Paul, looking down at the list of megaphones, Ray Hadley, Alan Jones, Andrew Bolt, Miranda Devine, Piers Ackerman, plenty of people on the right side of the political spectrum, not so many on the other side. Why is that?
Look, that's a puzzle, but the people on the right are much louder, basically, and they're much more aggressive. I guess they reflect the prejudices of the audience that they're catering to. I don't think you don't have a successful career as a shock jock or as a columnist if you're constantly disagreeing with your audience. And I think it is a fact that the people that they're talking to are anxious, they are disillusioned, and they are to some degree prejudiced about a whole series of things, and they whip that up and they riff on that. Why there are so few left-wing shock jocks or columnists, I really don't know. But I think if you look at the ABC, for example, which is often accused of being left-wing, the ABC has a number of rules about how their presenters are supposed to go about their business, and they are supposed to be objective. And you know, for all the accusations that are levelled against them, compared with the commercial radio people, they sure are.
Paul Barry from Crikey, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.